we lost our biggest client last week. Even though we had increased revenue for him, he found a revenue manager that was essentially building a bot for him. Most revenue managers would tell you that they manage pricing based on gut feeling. A lot of people don't like to admit it, but it's the truth. I think a few months ago, I would have said it's nice to have. Now I'm realizing it's also a matter of survival.
The Operator Podcast by Circle.cloud.
Nick, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you. Very well. Yourself?
I'm very good, thanks. Why don't you start? Give us an introduction of who you are and what you do.
Sure. So I'm the founder of PriceAdvize. It's a revenue management agency that specializes in helping short-term rental operators, so people that manage properties on Airbnb and Booking.com, to maximize their pricing. So we do this primarily through dynamic pricing. So it's managing their rates on daily basis through a third-party software, and managing their online visibility through SEO, so search ranking optimization on Airbnb and Booking.com.
Interesting. And how have you found, so the journey building your business to where you are now, and in particular in technology, how has technology impacted your business until today, and where do you see it impacting going forward?
Yeah, it's a good question. So our service specializes in using one specific software. So most people in the short-term rental industry use a pricing tool that's called PriceLabs. And until today, I would say 80% of our time is spent directly in that tool. The rest is what you call property management software. So that's sort of a centralized operating software that our clients typically use to manage their properties through different platforms. So we dive a little bit into that. And I would say until this day, until recently, those were the two primary tools that we were using. However, now with AI, we're seeing that we can build tech layers on top of that by integrating those tools directly with a cloud, for example, via APIs or MCPs, right, that are being newly released by those tools. And we're trying to build new dashboards to sort of improve our service and build on those tools.
What models are you using? What API, what providers are you using?
So I started using AI, like most people, I think, through OpenAI, just chatting and using it for emails, for responses. But I think this really changed earlier this year with the use of agents, and I think Claude was probably a little bit ahead in terms of integrating, their service with other tech stack, via the MCPs and API keys. So I switched actually just 2 months ago from using OpenAI and just chatting to now actually using Cloud Code and actually starting to build proper apps and tools on top of that. So
I think that's the right decision. I think Claude Code is so much better. I mean, if you compare Claude Code to ChatGPT as in the interface on chat, Claude Code is 1,000,000 times better. But Codex by OpenAI is pretty good. It's not too bad when creating apps and building tools.
That's right. I haven't tried it, to be honest. I think one thing that really blew my mind, one tool was Manus. I don't know if you've ever, if you have experience using it.
Yeah.
But I think that's kind of like an agent built all in one. And the first time we used it was to build an accounting app, because my co-founder and I sometimes are making payments and receiving payments on our own accounts as a small agency. It doesn't always go through the company's account, and we needed to keep a clear record of that. And accounting software aren't built for that, really. They're built for tracking the books of one company, one account. But here we had to deal with like several personal accounts and company accounts. And so we built a sort of an accounting sheet to track our payments and expenses, which previously we were doing on spreadsheets. So that was one cool thing. And then the ability to scrape lead lists. That's actually how we started using Manus, because Manus can go online for you. And I think that was really an eye opener for me, when you have the tool that actually goes on Airbnb and searches, the name of a person, and then tries to matches their emails, etc. And yeah, that opened up a whole new world. Unfortunately, I think it's there's still a lot of errors, right? When you ask an AI agent like Manus to do a scraping list for you, you still have to make sure that the data is correct. Same thing when we tried building internal apps to scrape the data from Airbnb and Booking. We found that a lot of information wasn't correct. And this is when I decided to kind of switch to cloud, because I think cloud is a little bit more robust. It's more coding, right? Like it's more customizable, etc. But I think generally the output is better.
It's more powerful, that's for sure. And
Yeah.
Manus was the first, I think one of the first truly agentic AIs that was available. And I played around with it a bit. But my real first experience, my wow moment, my aha moment with agentic AI was when my coffee machine broke at home. And it's this integrated machine. And for months, it was just broken. And I was just ordering Starbucks in, and it was lazy about it. I knew that I had to spend the time to contact the manufacturer, find and see where a repair service technician existed, and then contact them, and then get them to come to the house and book the time in, and then, negotiate the price and see whether they could fix it. They couldn't fix it. Anyway, so I was kind of procrastinating on that moment. And it came the day where I discovered this new tool called Perplexity Computer, which is Perplexity's version of Manus. It's an AI agent that can do things for you. And that's when it sort of clicked. Oh, this can do things for me. I can connect tools to it. I connected my Gmail. I connected some other tools. I could already web search. And I took a picture of the inside of the machine that contained the model number, and I sent it to Perplexity. And I said, take this picture. This is the problem with the machine. Obviously, you can see the model number on the maker in the picture. Go and find me who can fix it for me. And the next thing I know, it emailed the manufacturer. It obtained the repair service technician. It got a quote. I approved the quote. I got a phone call confirming the time and date when they can come and see me, and it was all booked in. The whole thing took me maybe 5-10 minutes to do versus the several hours it would have taken me. Doing it all by myself. And that was a simple task, but it really left me with my mouth open.
Yeah, it's insane. It's I never tried. Actually, I had a discussion with my fiance over lunch today. That she saw a podcast, or I think like a reel online of somebody in the hospitality industry that created an agent that's able to book a plumber in case there's a plumbing issues in an apartment, like a sinks break down, and the agent will just pick up on the conversation and call a plumber to the property. But my initial, I think it's crazy. Like it's insane that it's a possibility to do that. But my sort of first reaction is also, which plumber is it going to call? Like, does it actually check the reviews? How is it going to coordinate, the plumber checking in? I think it's very tempting, right? I see a lot of people building a lot of cool stuff, and for us as well. Like my co-founder especially spent a lot of time vibe coding a lot of stuff, and it's very exciting. But then when you dive deeper into the tool, there's still a lot of debugging and issues that have to be dealt with. So I think is actually for the reason why we're thinking for the first time to hire a full-time software developer, because I feel like it's we can come up with great ideas today, but to actually bring them to life, to make them a viable product for our clients, we still need this sort of like technical knowledge.
You
and support.
absolutely need the expertise, because you can vibe code to up to a certain extent. And I've done a few videos about this where I consider myself a little bit of a vibe coder, but I have a bit of a background in software and an understanding of software architecture. So somebody that's brand new to software or brand new to building, if they were to be given the keys to Claude Code and then off you go, build something, I can imagine, it's almost like you have to steer it. I consider AI to be like a rocket ship for the mind, but you still have to steer it in which direction you want it to go. So you can't just go and say, build me this and it will take care of every single element for you. You still have to worry about the database, the security, the compliance, the making sure that the data is handled correctly. Is it hosted correctly? There's so many different questions that you need to make sure it covers, that you can't just say, build me this and make sure it's production ready. I mean, a lot of it might catch, but it won't catch everything. I'll give you an example. Over the weekend, you mentioned earlier about the finance or the accounting app that you built. My CFO has asked me to change the way I handle expenses and receipts. And understandably so, because what I was doing, I was just taking a picture of the receipt and I was sending it to a Slack channel. And the finance team had to then download my receipt, open it up, read what it said, put it on Xero, the accounting platform, and then upload the receipt to Xero once they've categorized everything. And it was taking them maybe 5-10 minutes per receipt. So it was a little bit unfair for them to be doing that constantly. So she asked, please, can you just upload the receipts to Xero and categorize them yourself? All right, okay, well, we'll try that. And we did it for maybe 2 weeks, where I was going into Xero, opening the app, and Xero is not a beautiful app for expenses. You got to open the app, you got to click on the plus sign, then you go to expenses, and you got to enter the description, then you got to enter the merchant, then you got to enter the date, you got to enter the time, you got to enter how much you spent, you got to categorize it to an account, there's so many like steps you need to follow, probably about 3 to 5 minutes per receipt. And I'm driving, I'm going to the petrol station, refueling, I'm taking a picture of the receipt. I just want to get it done quickly. I don't want to spend 5 minutes at the petrol station or pulling up somewhere else and then categorizing it, or at the end of the week getting all my receipts and taking pictures. It's not viable. I'm busy, right? So I just want to get it done quickly. So I thought, there's got to be an easier way to this. Maybe I can ask Claude to build me an app that I can just take a picture of it, and it sends that picture to an LLM, extracts the information from the receipt, and then once it's got the information, it APIs that into Xero. That was like the dream. And I thought, it's going to be too complicated to do that. It's going to be too difficult. And then I was and I was also really busy doing my normal work, so I couldn't just go and build this. So on Saturday, we went to the cinema with the family. And when you get to the cinema early, there's always like half an hour worth of adverts and trailers that you don't watch the film. So during that time, I got onto Claude using the latest model, Fable 5. And I was talking to it saying, I want to build this app. Do you think it's possible? What would it look like? How would it do? How would it look? And we went through almost like a back and forth discussion. This was on chat. It wasn't even Claude Code. It was in the chat about how it would be structured. How would the architecture look? And then based on its responses, it kind of like all clicked in my head. It makes sense. All you need to do is have a back end. You have a front end. The front end is the client, which is the iOS app. The iOS app then talks to the back end. The back end is hosted on our infrastructure. Then it talks to, we can store the receipts in an S3 bucket. Then we API the receipts over to Anthropic to get them, to get the data out of the receipts. And then we can get the JSON back. And then we look at the structure of how the account should look on Xero. And then we send, it all made sense. It clicked. So then I said, okay, let's give me a prompt to pass this over to Claude Code and let's build it. So it basically built me a PRD, and I passed that PRD to Claude Code, and I beefed up the PRD a little bit. This is all within half an hour before the movie started. And then Claude Code beefed up the PRD, and it split it into different components and stages and architecture diagrams. And then just as the movie was about to start, I said, okay, go. Build it phase by phase and let me know when it's fully done. And anyway, I watched the movie. At the end of the movie, I looked at my Claude and it said, it's done. It's been pushed to your GitHub. I was like, okay. I didn't look at it that evening because it was late. The next day, on a Sunday morning, I woke up and I pulled the repo from GitHub. I run it locally and it worked. It worked. Literally, it worked. Wow. On a basic level. The design was a bit naff, but it worked on a basic level. So then I grabbed the structure of what the app should be, and then I created a brand ethos into Claude Design. So I went to the Claude Design and I said, this is what it's a minimalist fintech app that I wanted to look like this, and I created design language, a brand style guide, and then I sent from Claude Design. You can export that design style to Claude Code. So I just clicked export. I copied the code of the NCP and stick it into Claude Code, and then I said to Claude Code, take this design language or design style and build it into the app. And also, by the way, while you're at it, build me a landing page and build me a web app. And it went. It's comical. It did it.
You got a business.
It did it. It did it. It created me a landing page. It could be later. I can show you. I got the app here on my phone as well. It's like it's intuitive. It's easy to use. You just go in. You put your receipts in here. It's called. Oh, by the way, you know what it's called?
Is it on App Store?
I'm going through the process of putting it on the App Store. So I've submitted it. At the moment, it's on test flight, but I've submitted it to the App Store, and hopefully they'll approve it soon. But it's so simple. You got the app here. You log in. I don't know. Oh, you can't see it on the camera very well, but you basically got the receipt here. You put the receipt. It categorizes it, and it sends it straight to Xero. Super simple. But the point is that I looked for this solution for hours, and I couldn't find a solution that was just this. There's lots of apps out there that do receipts to Xero, but they do them to Xero, to QuickBooks. They let you select 25 different options. No, I just want it simple. Almost like Cal AI simple, where you just take a picture of the food and it categorizes it. The same thing with receipts. Take a picture, forget about it. That's what I wanted. And anyway, it's built it. So I might have a separate, a separate app and a new business going on with this app.
Yeah, it's crazy for people that aren't technical to realize the capabilities that they have nowadays with those AI models. I think for me, a wow moment was 2 weeks ago. I woke up on Sunday morning and I decided, okay, what would it be like to actually create a real app that I can have on my phone? And I just decided to have a very simple project with a menu, like a meal plan for my girlfriend and I for the week. And it built it very, very easily, like a web app first. But then I encountered some technical issues because my girlfriend, for example, couldn't access it, right? If it's not because you built something on your own terminal that somebody else can access the app.
Exactly.
The great thing is you just keep on taking screenshots and you put it to cloud, and it guides you really step by step on how to actually build a public URL so that you can both access the app and have the data synced between the two of you. And yeah, now I have like this app on my phone. Unfortunately, we're not really using it, but it was a cool project, and to see that I could bring a working app in under 3 hours on my mobile phone.
Amazing. Before we go and talk about AI for 2 hours, because I could do this for days, why don't we go through your journey as a founder and what got you where you are today? In particular, because you obviously I think you mentioned you're in Prague now, right? Is that right?
Yeah, correct. I just moved to Prague 2 months ago.
You just moved, okay, but you're from Belgium originally, right? And then you spent some time in London and in Mexico. What's the story there?
Yeah, that's correct. So the story is pretty complicated. I was born, raised in Belgium. At the age of 16, I relocated to Vietnam, to Hanoi, where my stepdad was working for a development agency, and my parents gave me the chance to finish my high school in an international school there. So I switched from the Belgian school program to the international school in Hanoi at the age of 16. I did 2 years there, and I went on to university to study economics and finance in Hong Kong. So I stayed in Asia for 5 years.
Wow.
After that, I came back to Europe. I did my master's in finance in Paris. And after that, I moved to London to start my career. So I started actually my career in investment banking, working in leverage finance for Deutsche Bank. I did that for about 4 years. And the pandemic came. I was working from my little 50 square meter flat in London during 2 years, barely going to the office. And I think that was a tipping point for me, that I always aspired to kind of start my own business one day. But I think just being post-pandemic, just being stuck in that little apartment, dreaming about travels and adventures. 2 years after the pandemic sort of ended, I decided to quit my job. I took a sabbatical, went traveling, and I had a friend from the UK actually that was living in Mexico that invited me for a month, just to come and discover the city. And I basically stayed. I spent 1 month, became 2 months. Then eventually I had to go back home, pack my suitcases, and bring my life with me. And ended up moving to Mexico City in 2021, I think.
But what were you doing in
Uh,
Mexico? So you were investment banking in London, and then did
yeah.
you work remotely from Mexico? Or had you started the business by then?
So no, I didn't. I wanted to start a business, but I didn't know what to do. So I think Mexico was a good landing spot for me because I already had some basis of Spanish. So even though I didn't really know a lot of people, I spoke the language. And it's a very, like most emerging market, I always found that they're a little bit more entrepreneurial in the mindset. Most people that you'd meet in Mexico happen to have 2 or 3 jobs, and sometimes they have full-time jobs, but they always have like a side gig to make money, or hoping that one day they'll be able to live from that. So to give you an example, we had a friend. I think she was working for PepsiCo, but she's selling on the side um, hair fryers, right? Like, and she's trying to make money from that. And most people have something going on the side, and that's something that I really, I recognize that in Vietnam, in Asia, it was like that as well. I think part of the reason is simply because salaries are lower. So people know that, if they want to have enough money, they have to have a little bit of a side hustle. But that just makes the overall mindset a little bit more entrepreneurial. And I found that dynamism in Mexico, which seduced me initially. But then, arriving there, realizing that I didn't know anyone, that I didn't have an idea, um, was a rough transition. I searched myself for 4 or 5 months, talking to people, and then in the end I realized, okay, like realistically, I'm in a new country, I don't have an idea. I think the best thing I can do is expand my network, join a startup, and from there, hopefully I'll get an idea. And that's exactly what happened. I got recruited by a property management firm, which made me head of revenue, even though I didn't really have revenue experience. They knew I came from finance, and they wanted somebody that was bringing sort of a fresh look to that division in their business. And so I started working with them. I think another challenge too is that my Spanish was good, but I'd never really worked in Spanish. So it was like, that was also, the first few months having meetings, everything in Spanish was quite challenging. But it was a small, the company was not that small. Like they managed 1,000 apartments throughout Latin America, but the management team was quite small, and I was really close to the founders, because they were four, and I really liked that kind of very dynamic environment, right? And I did that for about 8 months, 9 months, and realized that there was an opportunity, because a lot of property managers didn't have in-house revenue management team, and even they weren't using, this property manager that had more than 1,000 listings wasn't using the software that we use today. They were managing everything through spreadsheets. And so this just made me realize that if like such a big property manager isn't well optimized, I'm guessing that everybody else who's managing 5 units, 10 units, 20 units is probably facing similar issues. So I went on to look for revenue managers on Upwork. I don't know if you know the freelance platform.
Yeah, a bit like Fiverr.
Yeah, exactly. It's very much like Fiverr. I think it used to be a little bit more upscale, right? It was more like for lawyers or sort of like a high priced service. But I think it's very similar. And that's when I met my current co-founder. So I wanted to provide this service on a freelance basis, but I didn't know how to price or where to find clients. And I knew that building a profile on Upwork, it takes time, right? You have to get your reviews. Everybody's competing for prices. So I went to the best revenue manager on the platform, and I found his profile on LinkedIn, and I just messaged him and said, I want you to coach me. How much do you want? And I'll pay you for 3 months, and you just teach me your system, teach me how you get clients. And luckily he was open to doing that. Um, so we started the coaching program, and within 3 months I improved the systems so much that he was just, he just told me like, let's join force. He didn't come from, so let's say he came from an engineering background, but I think it was his first job really. It didn't work in, a big structured business before like I did in banking. And I think my ability to build systems, and well-defined processes really helped us to scale. And so there was a natural match where, he didn't want to build systems, he didn't want to do revenue management, but he enjoyed selling, whereas I enjoyed more like building systems and diving deep into revenue management. And so, we decided to join force 2 years ago, and we're still together today.
It sounds like you combine each other really well. And what was that was in Mexico, right? And then you
Yeah.
left
So
Mexico.
yeah. So funny enough, so I started this in Mexico. Initially, during those first 3 months, I had my own agency, right? I had my own clients, because we hadn't decided to join force. My first client came through a reference, so friends of friends, and then actually cold calling. So I was cold calling a couple of
Well
people
done.
in Mexico, and got a few
In
properties
Spanish, by the way,
that
this is, yeah?
in Spanish.
I need,
Yeah,
hold on. Let's just pause this a minute.
yeah.
I need to hear your pitch. I want to hear you pitch me as if I am a property, I own 1,000 properties, and you're now going to sell me your property management services in Spanish. Let's go.
Do you want me to speak Spanish on the podcast?
Just pitch me as it first opener, like 10 seconds of what you would say. How would you go into the call if you're cold calling and you're pitching your services as an agency managing? So you're obviously helping property managers manage their property and improve
Yeah,
their
yeah,
revenue.
yeah.
What do you
Well,
say?
I'll do a 10-second version, but
Just
it's
the intro, just
hola,
the exact intro that you followed. Hola, soy. What did you say? What did you say?
hola Alex, soy Nico, te estoy llamando porque vi que tienes unas propiedades en Airbnb y yo soy un revenue manager, me especializo en manejar propiedades en el sector de short-term rentals. Uh, Me gustaría tener una llamada contigo si tienes tiempo por media hora.
Ah, perfecto. That's actually
Algo así.
Your Spanish accent is actually really good. I'm not sure if I
No,
tell you,
it's
I'm from Spain originally. I'm from Barcelona.
okay. So you know,
I wanted to
you would
see
know how to
what your
pitch.
Spanish was like, and it's actually really good.
Yeah, I mean, I have a strong French accent. I have a strong French accent still. Like I think even in English, you can hear it, but in Spanish it's stronger. But
But I bet
actually, I
you,
think that played in my favor,
I was
especially
about
in
to say
Mexico.
exactly that. I
Yeah.
was about to say it's people appreciate accents, right? How did you
Yeah.
find it?
Yeah. I think I didn't try having a Mexican person, calling on my behalf other Mexicans, but my initial thought was, okay, I need to sound perfect. I need to obviously it was a little bit more rehearsed. I haven't pitched in Spanish for like 2 years now. My fiance is Mexican, so I speak Spanish, but I don't pitch to her. Uh, eh,
Only
eh,
sometimes, right?
or yeah, I have to pitch sometimes with other ideas. And no, in this case, I think it played in my favor because obviously in Mexico they really appreciative of foreigners that speak the language. I don't know if in Spain it would be like that way. Unfortunately, I know in France it's not. If you don't speak French perfectly, they'll just hang up the phone.
I heard
they're not
that. They're
they're not
strange in
interested.
French because they're really strict about it. You either speak perfect French or you don't speak any French, right? It's like
Yeah.
they want to know.
Yeah, it's a little sad, and I think it just makes it much more difficult to learn the language. But in Mexico, in Latin America in general, it's enough you say a few words, and they're like, "Oh my God, your Spanish is amazing! You speak fluently." And I think that really helps, right? Like for me, the first year, it's really encouraging. And actually, I think hearing a foreign accent, people are curious, right? Like obviously, you have to be a little fluid, more fluid than what I just did now. But
Oh, that was
you
good.
know, you just prepare your text the first 30 seconds, and then you try to hook them for a follow up call. Obviously, you're not pitching the business right there on the phone. I think the idea is like, are you interested in having a demo, and then you pitch the business.
That's
So
exactly
yeah,
the approach we have as well. As we have a team of 30 telemarketers in here, and we find that the ones that have odd accents work better. When we have
work
somebody
better.
that's Scottish, it just works better. I don't know. Welsh
Yeah.
as well works better. So yeah, I
Yeah.
agree with that.
Yeah, no, it's something I had to learn that, because I think even when I switched to my international school, I think like most people that try to learn a language, initially you feel a bit ashamed of your accent. You try to cover it up, but then in the end, I realized that it really doesn't matter. If anything, I think it helps.
It's what makes you real. It's what makes you you. And I think
Yeah,
that's a strong card to play. And it's funny because they say to you as a kid, you have, well, actually, maybe, you want to blend in as a kid. You don't want to be
yeah.
the odd one out. You don't want to be the different one out. But as you grow up, you realize that actually, yeah, you want to be different. You want to not be like the rest, because otherwise you're not unique, right? You're not. So it's counterintuitive what you go through in school.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
So
It's your personality. Yeah.
exactly. So that was in Mexico. You started up with your co-founder. You found him, and then you decided to leave Mexico to go to London. No, back
Yeah.
to no.
Yeah, so my co-founder was he's from Jordan originally, but he was based in Berlin, in Germany, and we met, I think, a year before I moved. But I had already had plans. After 3 years, I realized, okay, I love Mexico. It's a great country, but I'm so far away from my parents, my life, my friends in Europe, and I think for 3 years, anywhere you go, you can relocate, and 3 years is sort of an adventure. Beyond that, you start building a new life. Obviously, if you're in Europe, everything is more connected and it's easier. But if you're on the other side of the world, you can keep in touch with people for 2 years and try and make it to as many weddings and Christmas and birthday parties as you can. But at some point, it's not sustainable, and you're gonna have to choose. Okay, am I building a new life here, or do I go back to my old life? This was a great adventure, but I don't want to lose what my the bonds that I had from before. And I think that's for me what made me decide to come back, because I loved Mexico, I loved the country, I loved the people, but it's just too far away. Um, so essentially, I decided that I would come back. Luckily, with the agency that we built, our clients are it's completely location agnostic. So we have clients. I started in Mexico, then I started having clients in the US, and then now that we're in Europe, I think for some reasons we just have more European clients. I think there's always a bit of a geographical bias. I don't know if it's like time difference or cultural affinity, but we just end up having more European clients today.
And where you moved from Mexico to Prague? Yeah.
Right. No, so I moved from Mexico to Berlin. We spent 6 months in Berlin, and I think that was because I've been going to Berlin every summer for years. I love that city, especially in the summer. I have quite a few friends there, and my girlfriend, today fiance, also used to live there for a short period of time. So it was a good landing spot for us, where we had a network, and where my co-founder also happened to be. But eventually we decided on relocating to Prague. Yeah.
Got
So
it.
we moved here 2 months ago.
And you mentioned that you have clients now, more in Europe than you have in Mexico, probably the time zone or other reasons. But what is your go-to-market strategy now? How do you get new clients?
Yeah, so it's a very good question. It's been our focus for the past 6 months, I would say, until we now shifted our focus to AI and building more tech stack within the company. Um, we used to rely solely on either recommendations or Upwork, and that was fine when we were a very tiny agency. Where we had enough, that brings enough work for me and my co-founder. But as we decided to expand, we realized that we really needed to focus on larger clients. And with larger clients, I mean people that have more than 15, 20 properties. And that was the only way for us to really truly scale. And unfortunately, those people are sometimes on Upwork, but there's not that many, right? So, and if they are, the pipeline is very unpredictable. And I would say that the competition on the platform has also increased. So most freelancers that are actually on Upwork will tell you the same thing. Their service gets very commoditized after some times. I think revenue management 2, 3 years ago, it's always been, it's a practice that's been around for hotels for a long time, but for short-term rentals, it's fairly new still. And I think, my co-founder was one of the first ones, so we had very little competition. He had a big profile, and it was fairly easy to get clients at the price point that we wanted. This has really changed in the last year. Revenue management for short-term rental is becoming more common. And I think people are finding ways to find those property managers outside of Upwork. So we're not seeing that many requests, inbound requests anymore. And we've had to look for them either in conferences or through cold outreach campaigns that we've tested. So, we tried reaching out to people on LinkedIn. We've tried email marketing. I would say the results on that are mixed, and I think it's been part of the reason why we decided to put a little bit of a break on our marketing at the moment, and think about a repositioning of our service to focus more on building tech stack that can also help our client. Because I think revenue management, the way that we have been doing it, which is connecting to PriceLabs and adjusting prices, is being commoditized. A lot of people have that skills. Essentially, our client are doing that, but we were betting always on the fact that they think it's too complicated or they don't have the time. But now that you have more competition and more people doing this, it's just not enough. And I think AI is bringing an opportunity for revenue managers that are looking to adapt and build new tools on top of PriceLabs, and that could provide value for the clients.
I think you mentioned when we spoke off air that PriceLabs is a little bit like Photoshop, a really complicated piece of software that not everybody understands and knows. So you hire an expert to manage it for you. And there was another cataclysmic event you mentioned that led you to reevaluate things, right?
Yeah, I think there is several things that have happened. First, I've noticed the conversion rate has gone down, right? Like that's one observation. The conversion of our pitch has gone down over the last year or so, and I think that's because there's more competition. The other one is we lost our biggest client last week. And even though we had increased revenue for him, he found a revenue manager that was essentially building a bot for him and managing pricing through sort of an algorithm that was built in house. And so that made me realize, okay, like people aren't necessarily looking for the thing about revenue management is that it's not a science. Nobody knows really if your pricing should be 120 or 100 for a specific night. And so there's a very high level of subjectivity And I think that's why agency works, right? Like people are scared that they're not maximizing their revenue, and so they're looking for experts and people to manage it. But even that subjectivity, I have to be honest, we also face it. I cannot say for certain that the right price should be 115 instead of 110, and you only know once the it's too late, right? Like the room didn't get booked and you lost the night.
You have
And
to
so I
rely on
think that,
your gut a lot of the times, right? Intuition
yeah,
and gut plays a big
it's
part.
exactly. It's very much, most revenue managers would tell you that they manage pricing based on gut feeling, even though it's not how you should pitch to client. And I think a lot of people don't like to admit it, but it's the truth. Really, you can only assimilate a certain level of data, and you have to try to make educated guess, but they're still guesses, right? And so I think AI brings an opportunity to kind of systematize that a little bit more, build systems that you help you make those decisions in a more predictable way.
Yeah.
Which again, like PriceLab gives you a pricing recommendation. So you already have a tool that uses AI to give you a recommendation. But we have noticed that even then, that recommendation is not always good. And having a human layer on top of it that knows the behavior of the market, the portfolio, the property. Not all the data is in PriceLabs. For example, PriceLab doesn't know what the review score of the property is. So you might know that. So you take that into account. So yeah, but I think there is room for building tools that could come on top and indeed take into account things like the review score of the property and other market factors that are not necessarily in the tool.
So you're now in the process of taking and ingesting the different sources of data, reviews, and all the other sources of data that PriceLab doesn't have access to, PriceLabs, but you do because you are in a close contact with the customer. You know the properties that they manage. You know where they are. You know the area. You know a lot more than what PriceLabs could ever know. So you can aggregate the data from all those sources together, and utilizing your experience and knowledge, you can then translate that potentially into an AI bot of some kind, or even an application that would complement or enhance your services, and then provide a unique value proposition to your customers, right?
That's right. So it started from wanting to seeing that our marketing didn't work to also didn't work, sort of started to work a little bit less, to losing one of our most important clients. And I think last Friday I also had like a sales call that was really telling. A client in Greece with 14 properties tried to just reached out. I gave him the usual pitch, worked him through our company presentation, and he ended the call saying, "Okay, so you guys are essentially doing what my revenue manager is already doing." And then I decided, okay, I'll take the risk, but I will show him what I'm actually currently building on cloud. And so I shared my screen and I said, "You're right. Today, we're doing that, but look, I'm in the process of building this tool, right, with the dashboard." And then I showed him, also an algorithm, some rules that we're trying to work it to add on top of PriceLabs. And the tone of the conversation completely changed. And he's like, "Oh wow, it's cool." And I said, like, I cannot sell it to you yet. I'm not pretending that this is ready, but we're working on this. Like, we're working on this stuff, and hopefully it's gonna be ready in a month or two. But he's like, "No, no, no. I respect it. I respect the fact that you're trying to build this and that you're working that way." And I think that was really telling, and it just shows again like the importance of embracing this technology and trying to stay on the forefront by innovating and building apps on top of the tools that we have today.
And the value added service that comes with the tools, leveraging the tools that are available to provide that value added service to your customers.
Yeah, it's not just something to it's just not. I think a few months ago it would have been, I would have said it's nice to have, now I'm realizing it's also a matter of survival. I think it's just like it's a must-have. More as you said, like you're able to build app. I can build apps. I don't have any technological background. If I don't do it as a revenue manager specialized in this field, other people will do it. My clients will do it. So it's important that we try and innovate and with what we know, the expertise we know, the experience that we have, try to build the most valuable tools in the industry. Yeah.
I think you hit the nail on the head when you said the experience we have, because building is easy now. Most people, if not everybody, can build an app, but it's knowing what to build and building it in a way that is the most efficient way based on the experience that you have and the knowledge and experience. So you spent years in property management, efficiency and revenue management. You can build a tool in this sector that nobody else can because of the position that you're in. And that's what makes it special. So what you build will be uniquely yours because you'll craft it. Even though somebody else is writing the code or something else is writing the code, you're the one that's choosing what to build and crafting it and molding it and shaping it based on your unique experience. And that's what makes it uniquely yours.
Yeah, that's right. And I think, in a world where everybody can build apps, precision and these kind of small features that are really unique to only people that really have the expertise and experience will make the difference. It's again, everybody can build a simple app, a simple MVP, but only the people that actually use it and understand the pain points and have been using those tools will be able to really build something that's different and make the difference. And I think that's where it's not vibe coding anymore. It's really you can have we can have the idea, but at some point we'll probably hit some technological constraint and we need a developer for that.
Yeah, you've already scoped that in. It's to taking your domain expertise paired up with technical knowledge from somebody that knows what they're doing, and that's what will allow you to build that killer app for your customers.
Yeah.
So Nick, if one of our customers or one of the people watching this let's say they're a landlord that owns 1,000 properties that needs somebody to manage them, how do they reach out? How do they get hold of you?
They can visit our website, which is called PriceAdvize with a Z, right? So adize.com. And there they will find our email address and phone number, or they can also find me on LinkedIn under the name of Nicholas, CHOLIAS, Svensson, and they can reach out through LinkedIn as well.
Amazing. I'll link it all in the show notes. It's been a pleasure speaking to you. Thank you for being on the show. And yeah,
thank you so much, Alex. Really appreciated having that conversation with you. And thanks for doing this. I think it's really interesting.
Thank you.
Thank you.